Hey everyone, it's Dr. Bird. So of course you know me from ChiroMovement. Today I have with me Bryce. He is going to be this year a pro athlete through Highland Games, which means you won't see him a ton at the local events, but you're going to see him more at higher level events.
Yep.
You get to watch him throw. But I brought him here today with us so he can kind of teach us how he sees warm-ups and how he sees mobility training for the Highland Game athlete. It's very different in comparison to just doing mobility for the everyday person. This is going to be a little more specific to the needs for the throws that we have within our sport itself. So he's just going to roll, and we're going to talk about mobility work, warm-ups, certain ways of training, and how he does his training programming, where he puts weightlifting in as well as throwing events as well throughout the week. So here he is, let him roll.
Awesome, appreciate it, Doc. So today mostly want to focus on a couple different philosophies as training and lifting goes, as well as caring for your body. Myself, like most other people, we've had a number of injuries. Doc Bird last year was very kind to help me get through some bicep and mobility recovery. I've tearing my bicep, so just like many others who've had injuries, I've been there, done that. However, in staying healthy, there's a few key points that we can focus on. So today, I want to talk about additional proper warm-ups, key mobility aspects, knowing your body, what are good things, what are your weaknesses, what are your strengths, how to train and self-train yourself around some of that, and then the aspect of throwing in general, right? We're multi-facet range of motions, multi-planes, and heavily in the rotation plane. So going to kind of touch on a few things, starting upper body, going down to lower body on a quick warm-up, and then once we get into that, we'll talk some training and how to prioritize what's most important, being a thrower first and a lifter second. I think for some people it's tough in Utah sometimes because of facilities. So you kind of do what you can, but get the most out of what you're working toward. So yeah, kind of jumping into things initially. We'll then.
Do I need a PC?
If you want, you can. You want to join me on that?
Yeah. Oh yeah, of course.
So my biggest philosophy is the fastest way to get warmed up is get your core temperature going. So if you're at home or if you're at a gym, if you have the ability to get your core temperature up, get your core temperature up because that's more blood flow to all of your joints. It's going to help you, get everything moving and feel better faster. I think one thing in Highland Games that we have to remember is it's such a long day. You don't want to over warm up, but you don't want to be under warmed up. So doing things that can get your core temperature up quick so that you're ready to roll, but you're also not wearing yourself out, before the day even starts. So I'd say if you have an assault bike, 3 to 5 minutes on the assault bike, do a couple interval sessions, your temperature's going to be up. Immediately then go into some drills like we're going to go through with mobility. One of the big things that I like to start with is just forward and back range of motion. Our shoulders are such an intricate key part throughout the day. I like to just start with our shoulders of just getting full range of motion. Some people like to call this like priming your muscles and priming your joints. And so I like to just start with, whether I'm home doing snatches, whether I'm about ready to go outside, do weight over bar, this is just like a very general 1 or 2 sets of 10 is really all you need just to kind of start feeling things. And then I'll prioritize what event I'm going to be doing that day. So if I'm going to be doing stones and weights, I'm going to probably do a little bit more shoulder development. If I'm going to be doing wob, I'm probably going to be doing a little bit more like wob, sheaf, things like that. Hammers, I'm going to also prioritize my lower back and groin and hamstrings just a little bit more. Okay, if you want that to be a little bit more intricate, say you have phenomenal mobility, this is a great one in the Olympic world for javelin throwers, is take one hand, go behind, and it's also a great one for hammers. And then you're going to end up in this position, then alternate, and come other hand in front. Yep. And then hit about 10 each side. And this is going to hit a variety of different muscles all across your shoulder cavity. So then once you hit that, you can then go back the other way. And then, for example, if I'm going to have a stone day, I want to make sure that my rotator cuffs and everything like that is nice and warm. So if you can, if you don't have a PVC, you can go ahead and find any spot along the wall, anything that's vertical, and you want to focus on that elbow, that hand, the back of your hand coming down in a straight line, come nice and slow, and prime both your rhomboids, your rotator cuffs. And then once you do a set of these nice and slow 10, then you can also start getting this position. So keep those elbows high, like a scarecrow position in the clean. And this is a good way to just initially hit those shoulders, the rotator cuffs, and really focus on it. You can find out real fast what are your weak points of how far you can go back and how far down you can go and where your sticking points are. So it's a good, like, very self-indicating test of like, oh, I can't get my hand to go past my elbow. Well, that's probably something you want to work on, and just try to get that more mobile. The next one I really like to do, this is from like the Olympic lifting, is hold the PVC just like this. This is just nice. Get that initial stretch, kind of just wake things up. And then we're just going to pull from behind here and wake everything up, like you're going to do front squats. This is huge for front squats, power cleans, hang cleans, anything like that. Just nice, kind of wake things up, but don't overdo it. But you can definitely have it as like, self-assessment. Hey, sure, slowly push yourself of what feels good, but also don't overpush. If you don't feel it, in your rotator cuffs, move your hands around, change your angles, and then you'll start to feel that pull through. The next thing, what I like to do is spine mobility. There's a few different things that I like to initially start with. First is with the PVC. I just like to start with single leg RDLs in an isometric position. So I'll come down, work my balance and coordination, and then I focus on when I'm balanced, I'll focus on that lower back, I'll focus on my posterior. If you struggle with your balance, this is a great way to focus on that balance, to improve that balance. But you're also going to notice those weaknesses of, oh, okay, where do I need to have my body? So another aspect of throwing is your body awareness, and positionally strong, positionally weak. So this puts you in position to find where you're good at and where you're not. And then after that, I focus on my weaknesses. So if I know what sport I'm going to be doing that day, if I have weaknesses of, like, say I'm squatting or say I'm doing weight over bar, a couple things I'll change up is I will always do some groin warm-ups. So if I'm on the ground, for lower body, once I've gotten my posterior awake, so then what I'm going to do is
angle you down a little bit.
Okay. So I'm sure that's the slide everyone wants to see.
Absolutely.
Okay, so nice, easy one. If you struggle with range of motion, or if you struggle with groin, take it nice and easy. Don't go too quick. Okay, you can do this. You can do on all fours. You can do fire hydrants. Okay. Then when you become more advanced, increase your levers and do full range of motion, hip mobility here. So this exercise right here, my first year in Highland Games, I tore both or strained my calf and my groin and my left hammy, all in my first season. To say the least, it was a long time since I've been training like a thrower. It had been almost a decade. So I always focus on, as I come up, I'll come down, out, up, around, and go back out. So this is very effective, and if you struggle with, like I said, if you don't feel strong, keep your knee bent, and then start into windshield wipers. Okay, so then I like to move into the rotational mobility. So the biggest thing with throwing for distance is creating separation between your hips and your shoulders. So if you just have a PVC, just standing in place and getting winds in here, turning in this aspect, the more advanced that you feel, you can start walking and turning into it.
How about your way?
Walking and turning into it, just like that. Then you can do bent over winds. So you can be in this position and start getting here, and that's going to help as well with getting our posterior chain and our lower back in that mobile position. One of the reasons I love this so much is because weight over bar is very aggressive on those upper hammies, the lower back. This has been huge for me of staying healthy ever since that first season. I was like, whoa, okay. This is a lot of posterior spine and a lot of posterior chain. So yeah, I had to make a lot of mobility adjustments in regards to that.
Well, especially because it's not deadlift. It has that rotational component that you're going to pull back through and up and over. So
Yeah.
you have to work rotation and flexion, or both two different planes of motion at the same time. So
Yep.
sagittal plane, rotational plane have to be hit.
Yep. Once you can get those all firing, then you're usually ready to go.
Right.
Your nervous system's awake. You really don't have to worry about too much on it.
Right.
So a couple other rotational ones. So this is called a Krauser walk. So a lot of people, Ryan Krauser, he talks a lot about this one. It's very, very helpful is as you're walking, getting big and use with a barbell, get some weight, and as you step forward, turn into that leg and get very, very strong mobility in that plane.
So that's a Krauser.
Yeah, Ryan Krauser, the world record holder, shot putter.
Yeah.
That's one of the big drills that he's been doing.
That's with a barbell or
Yeah.
a weighted bar of some kind.
Yeah, do a weighted barbell, anything like that, put weight on it, and that's going to help get everything
Good to know.
both awake, but also core training, very effective, very quickly. Yeah, so you don't want to overdo yourself on that, but once again, you can kind of self-regulate. Hey, if it feels good, push a little bit more. But
Good.
yeah, based off your mobility, if you can do overhead stuff, do overhead stuff against the wall. I would say the next one that I do pretty frequently is with a med ball.
Time out.
Time out.
There's a 10 and a 20.
Oh, we'll do the 10.
Yeah.
So if you really want to get things awake, it's called around the worlds. Okay? So you're just going to keep your arms long. Now if you struggle with your side-to-side mobility as well, okay, do smaller ranges. You're going to go straight legs. Okay, you want to try to keep everything as far away from the body as you can. Reach as far away from the body as you can, as high as you can, and moving this way and back.
That sounds like a good one for hammer.
Very good.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah. Want to give it a roll?
I do? Of course I do.
So nice and slow. It's not about speed. It's about keeping as far away from the body as you can, feeling where you're at. A big component of what I train is I try to do things that involve body awareness. So what's going to be testing my body awareness so that I can feel where I'm at, where the implement is away from my body, helping train just my overall coordination and body awareness.
Oh yeah, that's a good one.
This one, 2 sets of 10. When I say 10,
man.
10 each side. It lights your core up pretty quick. And you're ready to go.
What'd you call those again?
Around the worlds.
Makes sense.
Yep. So the next that I think a lot of folks struggle with before we get into the training aspect is basic stretching, right? Basic mobility.
Right.
The stuff that you put out all the time is absolutely phenomenal. Static stretching. The one thing I'm not a proponent of is heavy static stretching before competing, unless it's like range of motion. Like, hey, let's get some range of motion.
So not day of comp, but stretching maybe as a recovery.
So especially after the lift.
Sure.
After the lift, I'm a huge proponent. I will try to lift static stretching, 10 to 15 minutes every single day after I lift or throw.
So we talk about, like, if I'm giving someone a stretch, it's like 2 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
And there's some science behind that, but what's your timing? How long do you like to stretch a
Specific part?
Yeah.
Yeah, I like to say, like, depending, for me, I'm trying to get everything of what I just worked that day. So depending on what muscle group it is, I'm 15, 20 seconds,
Oh, it's pretty quick.
It's pretty quick.
Okay.
Now, if you have the time and you want to be more aggressive with it, now, because I stretch 5 to 6 days a week, You don't need the long term.
Yeah.
The better you get at your mobility, the more efficient you're going to be. You retain a lot of it, especially when you do it after you're lifting. You have so much blood flow going through, but it kind of helps just push out some of the soreness and helps you recover and not be such a heavy DOMS onset. So yeah, I just noticed as I continue to have the static stretching, at least 10 to 15 minutes each body part that I really need to get.
Yeah.
Some body parts will stretch longer, just depending on what I did that day. So if I'm like lower body, we'll talk in training, then the majority is going to be 10, 15 minutes of lower body.
Yeah.
So that can kind of be a change to it too.
Makes sense.
I would also test yourself of the better range of motion you can have, the more mobile you're going to be, the better positions you're going to hit, the farther you're going to be able to throw. So I always kind of do a test check with myself of like, how do I feel in just like a generic, like sitting in like a baseball stance.
Okay.
So for me, I try to just sit here. Can I keep my feet flat? And then I slowly pull my hips open. And then can I get my chest through my hips?
More upright.
And stay a little bit more upright.
Yeah. Nice.
So this one is just kind of like a self-test for me. What feels good, especially for the lower body. How heavy do I need to go in warm-ups?
Good.
So super basic.
Oh, it's easy. Doesn't have to be difficult.
Yeah. That more just self-awareness of like, okay, how does my body feel? Because that position alone, I can feel my hammies, my knees, my ankles. I can feel my lower back. I also, okay, how tight am I in my up shoulders?
Sure.
It's a quick one, just expose my weaknesses for the day.
I mean,
So,
if you want a little caveat here, same position with a light load,
yes.
med ball, and then push those hips like a hip prying exercise.
Yep.
Push. You'll start to feel that side to side. What also was tight, because if you're going to work on a lot of rotational drills, rotational movements, those have to be able to move through rotation.
Yep.
Good.
Yeah, that's phenomenal too. And that type of movement warm up, yeah, that can be pre too.
Yep.
Yeah, if we want to go into training now, I guess
Hold on real quick. Sorry.
Pause.
Is that all the warm up stuff?
Well, we can go. I guess what I can do is just talk about it. Is to say like all of these movements. If you don't have a PVC, we could talk about all of these movements can be replicated with a band.
Oh yeah.
So
Just grab me a band real quick.
yeah,
Which one do you want?
Reds is fine.
Yeah. After that, then I'm going to do a pause.
Okay.
And then we'll go. Second part is whatever it is, and then third part if there's a third part.
Okay. Yeah.
That way it could be like 3 separate things.
Oh, perfect.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So if you don't have a PVC or you're traveling and you can't carry it, whenever I'm traveling, the big thing I use my sheath stick all the time. So I actually travel with my sheath stick. I have in a 1.5 inch PVC. So I pull that sucker off, and that's actually what I use for warm up.
There you go.
And then I take bands with me wherever I go. So our muscles are elastic. I'm a big proponent of using bands in every fashion.
Yep.
Bands were a huge aspect of my recovery of getting everything back. But if you don't, this is a great way of using like isometric holding and testing yourself in certain positions. So if you're limited and say the PVC is stressful on your shoulders and it doesn't feel very good, I would definitely throw in bands. Because bands, they're going to move with you and stretch with you a little bit better. So until you get to that range of motion with a PVC, they can kind of force you into those certain positions.
Sure.
Bands are a phenomenal way to get you primed as well. Now, if I get into some band warm-ups too, a lot of the stuff that you'll talk about, I run into all the time. So before I do my benching, actually the 80% of my benching warm-up is my back. Okay, so I would say with your bands, making sure that you're getting all of your back muscles warmed up is huge.
Right.
Prior to stone throw, you want your chest active, you want it warmed up, but also you want your back.
Yep.
You've got to keep good posture, you've got to hold positions, have isometric contraction. So this is a big aspect, is using bands. So for me, in benching and throwing, if you don't have something to hook it onto, once again, I will usually just wrap this around my travel bucket, and I will just do a lot of external, internal rotations.
Right.
So anything in this fashion, anything in this fashion.
Right.
If you have any type of shoulder pain, you've done great videos on this that I've used all the time. Benching has always been like a big thing for me. Like I've never had a struggle with like range of motion and like benching and squatting issues, but I've always had potential, hey, I've got a little pinch, little tweak. Being able to hold this and do eccentric contraction in full range of motion on both sides, this is very, very helpful for me recovering from a big bench.
Yeah.
And to come back and do speed bench. So not necessarily about the volume, but simply just contracting that muscle, eccentrically loading, and trying to push that into a decent range of motion, and then getting that full range of motion back. So if you're sore, isometrics are huge. Get everything back activated. Bands are really, really big. Highland Games, the other thing too, is just simply pulling things apart, squeezing things together. It's a huge proponent. For me, one of my weaknesses, right, since the tear, is waking up my grip. Highland is such a long day for your grip. And so for me, a lot of things just as simple as taking this and turning my wrist over from this way.
Hold on.
A little far away.
We'll zoom in on it.
So I'll take it here, wrap around my thumb, wrap here, and I'll pull. Okay, so you can do it the other way too. If you hold here and wrap here. Once again, if my biceps sore, which my biceps still gets crazy sore after my heavy days, I have to do a lot of this rehab or prehab just to make sure that things are functioning. So everything I do on my right side, I'll always do on my left side, so I stay balanced. And then just basic, curling. Okay, so just waking everything up in those smaller modalities. I would say the biggest thing you want to, first off, is have that self-recognition to say, hey, what are my weak points? Everybody has some strengths that they're really good at. Some might have hip tightness, but they're great in their ankle mobility or hip mobility or knee mobility. Find out what your weaknesses are. Start getting that full range of motion mobility, and then start getting that range of motion under load. That's going to be the biggest proponent, that I've noticed of how I've been able to get back both my strength and maintain my mobility. My wife kind of just gave me crap the other day that she was like, yeah, you need to get back to doing the splits. So, TBD. But it's helpful for the fact of you need to have the elasticity, but you also have to have that, hey, they need to be healthy and not just tight, but they should be able to be mobile, full range of motion.
Absolutely.
So definitely know yourself. If you don't know yourself, do small little things like this to kind of test yourself. If you can't do certain things, work on those things.
Absolutely.
I've always kind of had the mentality. I've always loved the thought of, don't think of it as like I have to go get this workout done. Think of it as, hey, I need to go practice this aspect. So that's kind of what's always kept it in me for me, even when I wasn't throwing. And in Highland Games, I was always training for something and practicing something. So it's not like I lost everything.
I think as well, when you are training for something, these small little itty bitty pieces make more sense.
Yeah.
If you just see them on the internet and as a do this for your grip, it's like, where does that overplay into my real world experience? It's like good grip for weight over bar, for weight for distance, hammer, all those are really, really necessary for those throws to go well. So those small little things have more importance when you can tie them to what activities is going to be beneficial for.
Very much.
Not that everything has to be explained in that manner, but drills are drills for a reason to help with a bigger movement, basically.
Yep. And how I focus my drill days, we'll talk about like my throwing days as well. Drills are actually for me to find balance and find comfort within that range of motion, so that when I do actually throw, it's okay. I can train the throw and get more comfortable in hitting those positions properly, but producing the most power through those positions.
Right.
So I'd say that's kind of the biggest part of where I'm at in my training is, okay, cool. Now that we're getting back to certain aspects, how do we produce the most power of being comfortable in those positions?
Yeah.
It's getting the uncomfortable comfortable, and then you can produce power and generate more force.
There you go. Nice.
So that's kind of the goal.
Cool.